What it do, what it do, what it do, what it do, soul visionaries and potential soul visionaries out there. I'm your grateful soul brother, Sherrod Corner, and you are now rocking with the SoulVizion Powercast. You know that place where we keep it unfiltered and raw. We talk about anything from porn to politics. We'll even talk about the things you might have heard or even saw. Now, today's topic is one that has ended relationships, destroyed families, ruined relationships, and even damaged careers. Today, we're going to talk about talking before the situation becomes toxic. Too many people wait until they're angry to communicate. They wait until resentment has built up. They wait until they have mentally checked out. They wait until they have decided that they're all done. By then, the conversation isn't about solving the problem anymore. It's about surviving the damage. We're going to kick it. What it do, what it do, what it do. Toxic relationships. Every toxic relationship wasn't toxic on the first day. Every broken relationship wasn't broken from the beginning. Every divorce did not start with the divorce papers. Every family feud didn't begin with years of silence. Most toxicity starts with something much smaller. A conversation that was never had, an issue that was ignored, a boundary that wasn't communicated, an apology that was never given, a hurt that was never acknowledged. Silence has a way of becoming poison when it's left untreated. There's a quote that says, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die from it. You know what I'm saying? And the problem is, small problems become big problems. People love saying, it wasn't serious. It wasn't that serious. It wasn't that serious. Maybe it wasn't at first. But disrespect, repeated disrespect, it becomes resentment. Disappointment, repeatedly, becomes bitterness. Misunderstandings, repeated, becomes division. Ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. It simply gives them time to grow. Think like mold in a house. You know what I'm saying? It starts behind one wall, and if you don't address it, eventually it's in the ceiling, the floor, and the entire foundation. Relationships are the same way. You know what I'm saying? And see, if you got a problem with an individual, you gotta kick it to them. You can't just expect people to read your mind. Stop expecting people to read your mind. One of the biggest relationship killers is unspoken expectations. People get upset because someone didn't do something. They it's like you want this person to do a thing, but do they know that they're supposed to do this thing? It's like they didn't know they were expected to buy you certain gifts or take you certain places or speak to you about certain things. If you don't communicate that stuff, it's not going to get done. Communication isn't optional. It's the foundation. It's required. Instead of saying they should know, ask yourself, how would they know if I never told them? Healthy adults communicate. Little kids talk. People that's trying to prove themselves to be right, they talk. Adults trying to solve the problem communicate. Emotionally immature adults assume that people know what it is they want. They don't tell you. It's like, oh, you should know if you study me. I'm just hearing people talk and, if your man loves you, he studies you. If people know you, they make it easy. Why don't you tell the person what you want right off the rip? And once you do that, then now, the expectations are there, knowledge of your expectations are there, and you can move forward. So you need to address the issue, not the person, right? Too often we attack the character instead of the behavior. Instead of saying, when this happened, I felt disrespected, people say, you're always selfish. See the difference? See, there's a difference between the two. One attacks the behavior, the other attacks identity. Once people feel personally attacked, they stop listening. Now they're defending themselves instead of hearing you out. And then people accuse you of always defending yourself. But if you always have an accusatory tone behind what you're saying, of course, that's human nature is to defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you know what they're saying is not correct. I can't tell you how you feel, but what I can tell you is what my intentions were behind my actions. Now, timing. We got to talk about timing. Timing matters, right? Not every conversation should happen immediately, but it shouldn't take you 6 months, a year. So, you shouldn't let this shit just fester for years and years and years. Oh my God, I'm just going to let it build up, build up, build up. Okay, yeah, take your time. Get your words together so that you can effectively communicate. You know what I'm saying? People like to build, like they say, people build up an emotional case file. They collect receipts, address the issues while they're still manageable. Because for me, once an issue has passed by in time and you never brought it up, no, I really don't care about it. That's the past. You're holding on to it. You should have let that shit go right then and there. That's what's wrong with a lot of people. They say, you don't care. Basically, you're right. Because you didn't feel like it was important enough to discuss it at the time they was really fucking with you. Now you're going to wait. And then now the next thing somebody supposedly has done, you want to let all this shit build on top of each other. Then all of a sudden you just want to, you did A, B, C, D, E, F. Yo, all that shit was in the past. We should have spoke about it then. Now, in this present moment, it's going to be blown out of proportion. Emotions going to be high, the whole 9 yards, when we could have just spoke about it when it happened, and then it could have been cleared right then and there. And then going forward, you might be able to avoid some of the pitfalls that you had copied down after the original incident. You feel me? And what people don't realize is that the difficult conversations are the ones that build the strong relationships. Many people think that if you avoid the conflict, it'll create peace. And a lot of nice people like to do that. They like to, okay, I'm just gonna go along and get along. You know what I'm saying? When you avoid the conversation, it creates distance. Emotional distance first, and then it becomes a physical distance. Healthy conflicts create understanding. And by healthy meaning, we're gonna communicate. And communication is both both conversing and listening. And we're listening not to respond, we're listening to reply to the issue at hand. We're not trying to prove who's right, we're trying to resolve the issue. Unhealthy avoidance, right? And people like to shut down emotionally. That unhealthy avoidance, that creates resentment. Once a person shuts down, they build up resentment for the person. And it's like, yo, well, in my mind, it's immature to shut down and not allow a person in. If you actually want to fix it. If you love a person, you're not going to shut down on them and then just hold it against them. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when you shut down emotionally, next, physically, it's going to shut down. And then it might be irreparable after that. Real love, real friendships, we have those difficult conversations. Be it with your children, your wife, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, whatever, parents. You gotta have these conversations, because if you don't, it is not going to end well. Pride is expensive. Sometimes people refuse to talk because they want the other person to make the first move. And this is that part I talk about air when I say appreciation, initiation, and being able to initiate things instead of always waiting for the other person to do something. That's that prideful thinking. I'm just going to wait and just he can make the first move. She can make the first move. No, sometimes people would rather lose the relationship than to admit they were wrong, right? So I'm not gonna make the first move. I'm gonna wait for them, and if they don't make it, then so what? Sometimes people know they're hurting someone and still refuse to apologize, and that's either one of two things: either you really don't care in the first place, or you know what? You can hurt someone. I say one or two things, but I think if you constantly keep hurting someone over and over and over and over and over again, can you truly love them? You know what I'm saying? And that's if they got to communicate though. They have to communicate these things with you, because if you don't know you're doing a thing, you're going to keep doing them. Because no one said anything. That's like, a child going to touch the outlet. If you never correct that child and show them that there's a consequence behind, don't do that. You tap their hands, don't do that. That's wrong. They're going to keep doing it. And then they're going to keep testing themselves until they become hurt themselves. Pride has ended more relationships than any disagreement has ever. You know what I'm saying? Because pride won't let you, like they say, pride won't let you get out the way. Pride will just, I'll just rather just let it fall apart before I admit I'm wrong. And it's like, I can admit when I'm wrong, but I also know at the same time that a lot of times when people say, I feel, okay, your feelings are correct. You have a right to feel that way. But see, now, will your pride let you see that your feelings were wrong? You feel me? Peace does not mean pretending. Oh man, this is, whoo. It's where these nice people come in. Nice to me, nice people to me are liars. They try to clean it up, but to me they're liars. Some people confuse peace with pretending everything is okay. They give you the fake voice, the fake, I'm good. That's not peace. That's emotional suppression. They're really holding in everything that, it's like a powder keg. It's going to explode one day. Peace comes after the truth. And people don't realize the truth hurts. If you love someone, love hurts. Because telling the truth to someone you love sometimes will hurt them. But you're not doing it to intentionally hurt them. You're trying to help them long term. What's worse, letting someone continue down a path, down a wrong way until they self-destruct, or telling them right off the rip, hey, look, man, don't do X, Y, and Z. If something has hurt you, say it. You can say it respectfully. Just be respectful about how you say everything. If you cross somebody's boundaries, I say, OYBS. Own your bullshit. Own it. Take it. Okay, man, I hurt your feelings. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Honesty and respect can exist in the same sentence. Now, the funny thing is once you apologize now, what do you do after the apology? Do you keep running after that person and saying, hey, I'm sorry, and then keep facing that rejection? Or do you say, okay, you know what, bam, here's the apology, and hey, I've forgiven myself, I've forgiven you, and it's in the past for me, everything is on you now. See, I've had these conversations, I've been having these conversations, and it's like, how many times do you have to apologize to an individual in order for you to make it right? Because guess what? If that person does not want to accept your apology, they're not. And then they're going to keep rejecting you. And guess what? That rejection can wind up becoming resentment. Okay, you reject me? Nah, all right, peace, deuces. So for me, hey, and I'm here's the apology. Doors always open. Let's kick it. I'm gonna wait for you now. The ball is like they say, the ball is in your court. What are you gonna do with it? You see what I'm saying? Now, life is too short, man, to lose people over conversations that should have happened months ago. I've got people, man, I've got family members that haven't kicked it with me in years, man, years. And actually over some small stuff. To me it was small, but to them it was big, you know. But the communication wasn't there. So now it's been years, it's been multiple years, you know, and we haven't spoken. And at this point it's like, yo, it is what it is, you know. You need to talk to people. See, what I believe is wrong with folks, they don't talk to people while those people are still willing to to listen, you know, because I like to apologize while the healing is still possible. You know, hey, I'm not going to wait forever. Hey, I apologize. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm wrong sometimes. Everybody's wrong sometimes. And I'm going to apologize. But I'm not going to keep apologizing to a person that's not willing to hear the apology or accept the apology. You got to set those boundaries before resentment grows. You got to communicate before the assumptions take over. Hey, we always think, you know, what this person, we always try to preemptively figure out what a person is going to say when we say this thing or that thing and this and that and the other. Hey, just go ahead and communicate. Get it over with, man. Just be truthful. Be honest. Tell your truth, you know, and tell it, you know, speak in a manner that's respectful, that both of y'all can kick it so that each one, you know, you're not accusing them, but you're saying, look, hey, when you did such and such a thing, or however you have to know who you're talking to, right? Once toxicity replaces trust, recovery becomes hard. Well, as my instructor used to say, it becomes a challenge. And are you up to meet the challenge? Because, hey, communication isn't a sign that something is wrong. Communication is how you keep something right. So are you willing? Are you willing to say, you know what? I'm going to calm down, take a second to calm down, get my words right, and go talk to that individual and kick it. Now, if you're willing, if you want to resolve a relationship, you're going to talk to that person, and then you're going to give that person a chance to speak to you back, you know, and you're going to have a constant dialogue. Y'all going to communicate. You're going to be respectful, no insults, the whole 9 yards. You know, if you can, keep the volume down. And try to be empathetic. Try to see where that person is coming from. But it's hard to see where a person is coming from if you feel like you're being attacked. Because I know for me, it's like, hey, I'll sit there and listen to you. I'm going to sit, I'm going to listen. But it's only so long I'm going to sit there and listen to you attack me constantly, and I know what you're saying is not correct. You feel me? Because I think that's what a lot of people do. You know, they want you to listen to their attacks without you defending yourselves. And then they want you to take their attacks as gospel and make changes to yourself based on that, whether they're right or wrong. And I think it's just so one-sided when that happens. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, just tell me what y'all think, you know, because these are my thoughts. These are the things that I think about, you know, when I'm sitting here kicking it or whatnot by myself. And I think of these things, you know, if today's conversation challenged you, encouraged you, you know, or made you think about a relationship in your own life, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the SoulVizion Powercast, share this episode with anyone who needs to hear it, and jump into the comment sections. You know, what's one conversation you've been putting off that could prevent a situation from becoming toxic? Hey man, I'm gonna leave the email address. I'm gonna put an email in the description. Hey man, hit me up with those conversations. Let me know what they are. Hit me with the comments. Let me know. If you disagree with me, leave that in the comment sections as well, because I don't profess to be correct about any and everything. You know what I'm saying? And on that note, it's 2026. We still in the mix, and we are definitely gonna rise and fly. Peace.